Thank you for joining us in the 1st District. It's my pleasure now to introduce Mayor Pete Buttigieg.
Good evening. Before the address begins, I ask that we observe a moment of silence for those who were killed and injured in Sunday's tragic plane crash in our city, very close to where we gather now. The thoughts and prayers of all of us in this city are with those who were affected by that tragedy. Clerk Vorty, Council President Dieter, Councilman Scott, who gave the pledge a moment ago, Councilman Varner, Councilman Davis, Councilmember White, Councilman Furlick, Council Attorney Sikansky-Farrand, colleagues, friends, fellow citizens, good evening. I would like to begin by thanking Principal Boyd and LaSalle Intermediate School for hosting this occasion. We are very proud of LaSalle. It's a U.S. Department of Education Blue Ribbon school. That honor came to just 8 schools, private and public, across the entire state of Indiana in 2012. And LaSalle was the only intermediate school in the state so honored. This is a big deal. This kind of success, right here on the west side of South Bend, shows real excellence in public education in our city. And whether it's the good things going on at LaSalle, the defending national championship mock trial team at Adams, the state 4-star school award going to Hamilton Traditional and Kennedy Primary Academy and LaSalle, national magnet awards for Dickinson and Marquette, or the fact that South Bend School Corporation had more Indiana Teachers of the Year than any school district in the state. We as a community need to take pride in these and so many other achievements in our public schools, in addition to our excellent private and parochial options. While our school system falls outside the purview of the city government, I believe it's incumbent on the administration and on all of us to recognize and celebrate these successes and to support the hard work that Superintendent Dr. Schmidt and the school board are doing to elevate education in our community. In late 2010, when Mayor Lickey announced that he would not seek another term, it was clear to all of us that this community was in for a transitional period. In the first open seat election in 24 years in our city, we knew that major change was on the way, with all the cause for uncertainty and hope that this brings. The last 15 months have demonstrated that the election and installation of the new administration represented the beginning and not the end of that transition. The first year of this administration has been a period of growth, change, renewal, and challenge for our city. We have been through a lot together in 2012. And that process of change is still underway. But if 2012 was a year of building, of groundwork, of transition, and of emergence, 2013 has already shown itself to be a year of action. Action requires 3 ingredients: leadership, resources, and purpose. It takes a team capable of delivering, it takes the resources to deliver with, and it takes a clear set of priorities on what it is we will deliver. First, the team. Our first order of business, one that continued well beyond the official transition period, was to establish and situate a team that could lead this city at full speed. If this administration is to be criticized for taking time to fill key positions, I hope it will also be recognized that we have assembled one of the most qualified and high-achieving leadership teams ever to serve in our city's government. Our approach has been simple. Set an extremely high bar. Find the best person to do the job, whoever or wherever he or she is. Look for local talent and find the very best in South Bend. But also don't be afraid to bring the very best to South Bend in order to join us and serve our city. The majority of our leadership team comes from within our community, drawn from the public and private sectors, and chosen for their ability to creatively and strategically guide our departments forward. Others are newer to the community, and our most high-profile recent job placement, that of Police Chief Ron Teachman, is a case in point for this approach to leadership. To make sure that police chief search was done right, we conducted a town hall on community priorities, advertised locally and nationally, drawing over 60 job applicants for this position. I wanted to be certain that both excellent inside and excellent outside candidates had a fair chance to compete. Then we set up a committee of respected local citizens, in addition to one state and one national law enforcement expert, to interview candidates and identify finalists. In a rigorous evaluation process, one name rose to the top, and Chief Teachman is the kind of leader who has the experience and the aptitude to bring the significant reforms that are needed in our police department, providing the leadership that our outstanding officers and our community need and deserve. But this is just one example. Through every department and in the mayor's office, we have set exceptionally high expectations, drawn and retained exceptionally capable leaders. These leaders are helping us to establish the organizational culture of this administration: high tempo, creative, innovative, and people-oriented. In addition to people, action requires resources. It is now 2013, the first year in which this administration and this council are operating in a budget of our own design, born through a thorough process that spanned the better part of last year and included over a dozen meetings open to the public in which we aligned our priorities and made difficult choices. It was not easy. Like any government or business or family in these times, we are learning to do more without being able to count on an increase in revenue. Through 2012, we undertook an exhaustive, exceptionally inclusive, and transparent budget process led by City Controller Mark Neal and Common Council Personnel and Finance Committee Chair Karen White. Today, we are working with budget priorities established by means of this intensive dialogue between the new administration and the new council. Third, no matter how good your team, how strong your resources, in order to take action, you need to have clarity of purpose. Last year, honing and refining priorities established throughout the community conversations of 2011, our shared purpose and mission came into even clearer view. The goal remains as simple as it is challenging: to ensure that South Bend is a safe, well-connected community where everyone can thrive. The path to getting there is guided by three major priorities for the administration. First, making sure that the basics are easy for our citizens. Second, providing good government. And third, getting everyone back to work. Guided by these three administrative priorities, our administration and our city are now moving full steam ahead. There's not enough time tonight to share more than a tiny fraction of the work that we've done, but it is important that citizens get a sense of what we have achieved and where we are headed and why. To best explain that first goal, making sure that the basics are easy for citizens, it's helpful to think first not in terms of government, but in terms of people. Every day I get to encounter different kinds of people who, taken together, make up the very life of our city. Some of them are here tonight. One person I think of is Tersa, a young woman who called our office looking for resources for her children, ages 4, 5, and 7. Kids she is raising on her own while seeking work and making sure that there is a roof over their heads. She has enough to worry about without having to wonder how to get a glass of clean, safe drinking water for her and her children. Think of Jonathan, the young man who is interning in our code enforcement department, has worked 2 jobs to put himself through school so that he can succeed in his chosen path as an entrepreneur. He's a first-generation American. He's making his way toward a very bright future. And he has enough on his plate without having to wonder if there's going to be an adequate road to get him between those jobs and our office and his school. Think of some of the seniors in this community that I'm sure you know as I do, retired but active, drawing pleasure from volunteering and giving back to the community. Someone like that shouldn't have to wonder whose job it would be to respond if her burglar alarm were to go off. City government provides those things that people literally cannot live without, from water to police protection, as they go about their lives. And our vision is to provide these basics of life so well, so smoothly, so seamlessly, that citizens are able to take them for granted and focus on what's really important in their lives. Now, this takes major effort behind the scenes. We're still waiting for the day when somebody will call 311 and say, I just want to say thank you to everybody at the waterworks for that glass of clean, safe drinking water that came out of my faucet this morning. It's probably never going to happen, but it does matter that our waterworks team delivered 6 billion gallons of clean water to the people of South Bend last year. We've partnered with IBM to become the first city in the world to move our wastewater management into the digital cloud. That's a technological development that has attracted attention from as far away as China and Israel. And more importantly, it's a development that has enabled us to cut the flow of sewage into the river, rare as it already was, cut it by 50% compared to the year before. We also were able to install a hydroelectric turbine in the river that will save thousands of dollars for taxpayers every year by producing clean electricity using the power of that water. Our police and fire departments save lives every single day, a duty that was especially visible in the last 48 to 72 hours when we witnessed the horrifying sight of an aircraft in the living room of a South Bend home. The destruction was unbelievable, though it could have been far worse. And the professionalism of our fire department, working in coordination with our police departments, streets and sewers and code and others, and countless agencies from beyond the city, from neighboring and overlapping jurisdictions, that showed that these first responders know how to perform under pressure and in difficult circumstances. Now, to keep this readiness up, we have to continue equipping and preparing our fire department for the future. And after assessing current and future training needs and facilities, we've concluded that it is time to establish a new, modern training facility for our firefighters. So this evening, I'm delighted to announce a major investment, the Luther J. Taylor Sr. Fire Safety Training Center. The facility is named to honor our longtime former South Bend Fire Chief and current Board of Public Safety member, Luther Taylor Sr., who did a tremendous amount to ensure the effectiveness of training for firefighters and civilians alike. It will provide firefighter training, including certification, special team operations, live fire exercises, and extrication. But just as importantly, it will provide training and education for the public, community opportunities like CPR, and civilian fire schools, first aid, the kind of fire safety outreach that prevents countless fire fatalities in our city. When it comes to looking after the basics, nothing is more fundamental than the safety and security of our citizens. Last summer, we saw alarming levels of gun violence, too much of which involved young people as victim, perpetrator, or both. They tell us that the statistics on crime here are comparable to another city of our size and makeup, but that is no comfort for the families of those who are affected. And we have to send a message that one violent crime in our community is one too many. We cannot tolerate another summer like last summer. So this evening I'm announcing the formation of an AntiViolence Commission to apply proven techniques in violence prevention to our neighborhoods. This commission will be co-chaired by Chief of Police Ron Teachman and Board of Public Safety member Reverend Eddie Miller, and will include representatives from local, county, and federal law enforcement, as well as social services and the faith community. This commission is not there to write a report. It is there to stop the shooting. And at their first meeting in April, I will call on them to apply evidence-based approaches that have worked in other communities. To support this effort, South Bend will join the National Network for Safe Communities, a nationwide support group that helps communities apply proven solutions to serious crime problems. Among other things, this organization has championed the use of the group violence reduction strategy. As the network strategy statement explains, this strategy, quote, has shown that violence can be dramatically reduced when community members and law enforcement join together to directly engage with groups involved with violence and clearly communicate, one, a credible, moral community message against violence. Two, a credible law enforcement message about the consequences of further violence. And three, a genuine offer of help for those who want it. Now, achieving this will require cooperation and partnership with law enforcement, service providers, faith leaders, neighborhoods, and others and establishing this partnership will be the first step for our Anti-Violence Commission. As another response to violence, in January, I made the decision to join Mayors Against Illegal Guns, a nationwide coalition of over 900 Democratic, Republican, and independent mayors who believe that we must have common sense measures like universal background checks and federal penalties for illegal gun trafficking. This, in my view, is totally compatible with support for the Second Amendment. In fact, 74% of NRA members agree with us that anyone purchasing a gun should have to pass a criminal background check. While we take the steps I've described here at home, Congress should make it easier for us by applying common sense at the national level. We also must do more to prevent young people from sliding into the circumstances that lead to delinquency and, in some cases, violence in the first place. We as a community, not just as a government, but as a community, must do more to help young people navigate the vulnerable stages of childhood and adolescence and become responsible adults. So next month, we will announce a mentoring initiative with a big but straightforward goal: double the number of mentors in our city in 3 years. Toward this end, the city has helped to raise over $100,000 in foundation support, building on the existing strength of mentoring programs in our community. The effort has been built by city and community leaders and members of the South Bend Common Council, and we're looking forward to the formal announcement to come. I spoke of making sure the basics are easy. The second priority I mentioned, good government, concerns not just what we do, but how we do it. Adapting and reforming city government has been a top priority literally from day one, when we issued the city's first ethics code, and it continues every day. We've enhanced the accessibility of the mayor's office through a Mayor's Night Out program. The concept is simple. We regularly go out into the community, set up a card table, and we ensure that any citizen who shows up can have my undivided attention to discuss any matter they wish to bring up. To date, I have personally met over 340 individuals in every district in this city to discuss issues of concern to them and work together to solve problems. Equally important, department heads are available at these neighborhood events to help provide information and solutions directly, and council members are frequently available to come as well. It's all part of a vision of a more accessible government, a way to send a message that in this organization, every official, including the mayor, is directly and personally available. Good government also means fiscal stewardship. I know that the phrase municipal finance generally does not make people leap out of their seats. But you need to know about what has been achieved when it comes to the fiscal position of our city. One area where we have made gains is in restructuring our bonds to take advantage of low interest rates. Bond refinancings on 2 major bonds has saved the city $3.6 million that can be put to other uses. And there are 2 more refinancing efforts in the works this year. And the overall fiscal strength of our city has allowed us to maintain our AA credit rating, the only Hoosier Class 2 city to do so. This means that South Bend is the most credit-worthy city of its kind in the state of Indiana. At a time when Washington is bogged down in debates over escalating debt, I want to make sure citizens understand that the fiscal discipline and painful choices that have had to be made here in South Bend have translated into strong financial health, even in these lean times. We're using technology to better serve citizens, setting up an award-winning new website for the city of South Bend, installing a new voice-over-IP telephone system, which will save over $1 million, and using new in-house software to better serve citizens. And I am particularly gratified to report that we have delivered a 311 call center so that citizens no longer have to guess which phone number to call for a pothole and which one to call for a question on the water bill. By calling 311, they have access to a team of problem solvers who can get them the information they need. We've already moved the streets department, solid waste, and wastewater onto this system, and envision eventually making the 311 the one-stop shop for all city services. Call center staff, led by Cynthia Simmons, have been taking calls in English and Spanish, resolving countless issues for citizens already. It's not just the roads and the technologies that matter. It's the way we do business, the human side. A good government looks at opportunities from every angle and resists the bureaucratic risk of viewing human beings as numbers on a page. A more people-focused strategy is at the core of our approach, and it's led to changes in the way we handle decisions. To take just one example, in the Department of Community Investment, new thinking led us to re-envision our response to the construction affecting Fellows Street, ultimately saving 30 homes and avoiding $6 million in taxpayer expenditures. Changing the way we do business also means making sure that our city purchasing is more reflective of the diversity of our community. Our Diversity Utilization Board has been working to broaden the capacity of local minority-owned and women-owned businesses and to make city bidding more transparent and easy to navigate. This initiative hosted a successful outreach event in October with over 125 participants and representatives from city government, administration, and council, and held a follow-up event just late last week with more activity planned for the future as we work to realize those long-term goals. And in the year to come, the work of enhancing government continues through initiatives like Code for America. South Bend is one of 10 municipalities around America that successfully competed for the opportunity to host 3 fellows from this program, sometimes called the Peace Corps for Geeks. As fellows in the Code for America program, IT and design professionals put lucrative careers on hold and spend 1 year as a team of 3 helping to develop apps that will strengthen a city. Our team of first-rate fellows has already developed a local wiki page and a geographic mapping service, and they will be working all year on economic development and neighborhood issues to deliver applications that will make us a smarter city and help more citizens get more involved, delivering potentially millions of dollars of value at a fraction of the cost. As we move toward being regarded as a smarter city, our progress is beginning to turn heads around the country. National Public Radio featured South Bend in a story about how to retool the American industrial economy in the data age. And while South Bend has correctly learned to be skeptical of top 10 lists, there is one you should know about. A national publication associated with the global IT firm Cisco Systems recently published a report on 10 smart cities around the world. The focus was on communities working to transform their fate through information technology. The cities mentioned included Boston, San Francisco, Singapore, Stockholm, South Bend, Indiana. We're transforming our future. One last point that has to be made about the way we do business. Cities that think only within their own boundaries are destined to fail in an interconnected world. We can and must understand that we rise and fall as a region, and our survival depends on strengthening our connections within and beyond our immediate area. People from South Bend work at jobs in Mishawaka and beyond, and vice versa. And we must have a more integrated approach to economic development, or we risk wasting resources by effectively competing against ourselves. That's why we've continued to develop a highly positive relationship with the city of Mishawaka and other neighbors. And this is why our job-creating partnership with the St. Joseph County Chamber of Commerce is so important. And it's why broader regional efforts, like the Michiana Partnership and Corporate Partnership for Economic Growth, will be a vital part of our ability to market ourselves in the future. South Bend must also keep its place among the community of leading cities in Indiana, ensuring that the shared interests of larger Indiana cities are heard at the State House. I have accepted the chairmanship of the Indiana Urban Mayors Caucus, an association of mayors of cities of populations over 25,000, to speak out on legislative developments that can help or hurt cities like ours on issues ranging from land use to transportation. To put it simply, connectedness is the currency of success in today's economy. That's why we've been reaching out not only beyond city limits and county lines, but even party lines. Last year, we traded in partisanship for partnership, teaming up with Governor Daniels and the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. And within weeks, we were celebrating the creation of over 60 good-paying union jobs at a Hubbell-Rayco facility on the northwest side with state and local support. We look forward to sustaining this partnership with the new administration, and I've spoken with Governor Pence about more ways we can work together to create jobs in our area. You can care about the values that make you a Democrat and also care enough for our economy to know when to reach across the aisle to get something done. Having spoken about making the basics easy and delivering good government, of the three pillars of administration policy that I'm asked about most, job creation comes in first. Here we have much work remaining to be done, but clearly South Bend's economy is continuing to come back. After a frightening period of double-digit local unemployment at the depth of the recession, unemployment for the South Bend, Mishawaka statistical area has fallen from 11.3% in 2010 to 9.9% in 2011 to 8.9% last year. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, over the course of 2012, our area created 1,600 jobs, and we have 11,900 more jobs than we did at the low point of the recession in 2009. We have a long way to go, but the region and the city are heading in the right direction. Overall, we recorded over $200 million in private investment last year here in the city, and that includes $74.9 million in commercial private investment associated with partnerships in our Department of Community Investment. These projects will be associated with 536 new jobs, enough to reduce the city's unemployment rate by a full percentage point. Growth and development are occurring across the different areas of our city. The northeast side area, known as the Triangle, has 11 homes now under construction, forming a new mixed-income neighborhood with high-quality houses from a number of local builders that collectively set the standard for new construction in South Bend. Meanwhile, 30 new flats in the Eddy Street Commons area are under construction, with another 15 planned. This development is just one of many areas in which the University of Notre Dame has demonstrated its continuing institutional commitment to the economic growth and development of South Bend. And our partnerships with Notre Dame and 4 other universities, as well as medical institutions that help power our economy, a growing phenomenon sometimes called EDS and MEDS, is continuing to help us develop for the future. Meanwhile, on the west side, the former Bendix and Bosch plant, which closed in 2011 and stood empty, has been sold to Curtis Products, a long-standing local, family-owned business, allowing us to retain over 300 employees in an area of town that needs those jobs and needs that investment. The southwest edge of downtown saw Data Realty opening a 50,000 square foot facility in November, representing $15 million in investment, and already the home of 20 good-paying jobs. They are the first tenant on the Ignition Park site, repopulating long-dormant Studebaker land and creating jobs that didn't even exist 25 years ago. Meanwhile, we've partnered with new technology company F-Cubed to temporarily locate them at the old St. Joseph High School site with a view toward having them in Ignition Park as well soon. Just north of Ignition Park, work will soon be underway to restore an 800,000 square foot factory and the area around it to be called the Renaissance District. Already $3.7 million in private funds have been invested here, and in a new partnership with the city, investors are committed to putting in at least $17.5 million overall to rehabilitate this industrial space into a mixed-use building of data centers, high-tech office space, and other promising uses. Downtown itself has seen a resurgence of interest. $3 million of private investment in Coveleski Stadium, which garnered an award for the best stadium renovation of the year in America and led to an over 50% increase in attendance over the prior year. The State Theater, Too Long Dark, will be hosting its first ever event under the new ownership later on next week. We saw the completion and full occupancy of the East Bank townhomes, and with St. Joe High, downtown has a high school again for the first time since 1968. And more townhomes are drawing residents to the heart of the city, across from the Emporium. It can no longer be said of South Bend that we neglect the aesthetic and economic value of our majestic river. To continue this momentum, we must keep our focus on economic growth and make the investments needed for the future. In the coming year, we will capitalize on the rediscovery of the value of our river, with plans for new river lighting and more growth to take place from the East Race area to the former Transpo maintenance site. Meanwhile, we are poised for a potentially game-changing investment in the structure of downtown by taking some of our one-way streets and converting them into a two-way pattern that is more suited to retail, pedestrian traffic, and other economically desirable activity. The original concept for one-way streets was based on traffic engineering, but took no account of the impact on economic development. Being a smarter city means looking at the bigger picture. And we cannot expect people to linger downtown if a 4-lane highway shoots people out of the heart of our city as soon as they're in it. One recent study of 5 cities to make a similar change found that all 5 of them reported significant amounts of redevelopment, increased sales tax revenues, and increased retail occupancy. And 4 of those 5 showed increased building of new offices, additional residential units, and increased office occupancy in the buildings they already had. If we can create jobs and tax base while reinvigorating the urban core of our city, that just might be worth adding a couple minutes to the commute. And right now, the administration is undertaking feasibility and design work to create a more economically viable and people-friendly downtown streetscape. We also have work to do when it comes to our investments in human capital, the software to go along with our economic hardware. One refrain from the economic summit we hosted last June was that we must build up the local contingent of skilled workers. Or as one CEO put it at the summit, we need more geeks if our economy is going to grow. That's why we're concentrating on ways to replace brain drain with brain gain. An example of this is the N-Focus program, which allows 7 graduates of Notre Dame's STEAM program, which teaches science, technology, and entrepreneurship, to remain in our community, passing up attractive jobs in the private sector to spend a year solving problems and working on issues of civic importance. The inaugural class has already delivered solutions and ideas throughout the community, including a way to potentially save our taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars in fire department operational costs alone. And I'm proud that our city is a founding co-sponsor of this effort. Economic development also means investing in quality of life. The reality is that labor is mobile, and skilled employees go wherever the quality of life is high. That's why it matters, not just intrinsically, but economically, that the Morris Civic is again in the top 100 global venues, that our Parks Department is one of the tiny handful around the country to have earned the coveted Commission for Accreditation of Parks and Recreation Agencies accreditation. It's why I spent 6 months practicing piano, getting ready for a symphony orchestra debut, to draw attention to the fact that the arts are meaningful, not just in themselves, but also as an indispensable pillar of an economically healthy community. Now, in order to attract and retain job-creating talent in business, we must ensure that our neighborhoods are strong and vibrant. That's why we are actively exploring ambitious new approaches to our corridors, especially the Lincoln Way West corridor that provides the first impression of our city to so many people who pass between the airport and our downtown. And it's also why it's such a priority to address vacant and abandoned homes in our city. Early last year, we convened a group of local government policymakers, neighborhood advocates, private sector experts to form a task force on vacant and abandoned properties. This group conducted extensive analysis and delivered an extremely informative report and series of recommendations, now available on our city's website. In February, responding to this report, I stood in the living room of a once vacant home rehabilitated by the Near Northwest Neighborhood Association, and announced a bold target for our community to address 1,000 vacant and abandoned homes in 1,000 days. The simple mathematical truth is we have too many houses in our city, and many houses are in such disrepair that they will have to be demolished. The first 50 are already underway, but this is not only a demolition program. We should rehabilitate those houses that can be saved, even as we tear down the ones that cannot. Our new Director of Code Enforcement, Shubhata Kambli, will bring her extensive education and experience in policy, design, and engineering to oversee this ambitious effort. There is a risk inherent in setting a target like this, but we need to take more risks around here, and we need to rally together to do something challenging but necessary for the future viability of our neighborhoods. It was Leonard Bernstein who said, "To achieve great things, two things are needed: a plan and not quite enough time." So to achieve our goal, we have to keep it a top priority in the city budget, using both economic development dollars and other fund resources to tackle the problem. The Common Council last year passed a budget measure to double the funding for addressing these homes, and we will ask for continued support for this priority in the coming budget. At the same time, the truth is we cannot meet this goal through government alone. That's why we need every nonprofit, private business, and individual to help in some way. So how many houses out of that 1,000 can I put you down for? Whether it's a major financial contribution to rehabilitate a crumbling home, or an individual ready to acquire vacant land for a side lot next to their own, or something as simple as committing to mow the lawn of a vacant house on your block until it's reoccupied. We need everyone to do their part. We are counting on cooperation from citizens as well as other units of government to help us meet our goal. The achievements and plans that I've described in these three areas, making sure the basics are easy, furnishing good government, and creating jobs, represent just a fraction of the activity taking place in our city. But all of it feeds a single, overarching vision, that South Bend's future is as a safe and well-connected community where everyone can thrive. That shared vision is what propelled this administration into office, and it animates everything we do. It's not enough to think about the level of activity or the structure of our efforts in government. To power a historic comeback, we must also consider our community's character, our readiness to seize opportunities, and the way we all behave when confronted with challenges. It all stacks up to say something about who we are as a city. Last year I spoke of unity, and I want to return for a moment to that theme. There is never total unity of opinions, even between two people, let alone 100,000. But we can and must have unity of purpose. A purpose to grow and to continue to move forward. We must continue to be bigger-hearted, and bigger-minded, to realize the potential of our great city and move without fear toward our shared future. Just 2 years from now, we mark the 150th anniversary of the incorporation of our city in 1865. And at 150 years old, we will be called to think about what kind of city we are. Not the size of our population, not the extent of our boundaries or the measure of our wealth. What kind of city we are. Cities, like people, have personalities about them. And cities, like people, succeed when they are forward-looking, big-hearted, and open. Above all, open. So how open is our city right now? Are we open for business? Are we open to newcomers, to visitors, to immigrants? Are we open to the impact of technology in an open source, open data, open fiber world? Are we open to change? Most importantly, are we open to each other? If we're going to succeed in meeting our challenges, if we're going to open a new era in the life of our city, then we have to be open. Our future has no place for small ball politics, for pettiness, for anyone who would be quick to take offense or slow to release a grudge. To be that way is to close oneself. And a city, like a person, becomes smaller when closed off. If we close our minds to new ideas, close our minds to new people, close our minds to the reality of change, then we close off possibilities and paths that could lead to a better future. It is easy, far too easy, to get attention by being the first to point out what is missing, what is lost, what is incomplete. Far too easy to attack the good for not being perfect. Yes, we live in a real and imperfect world where there are steps backward and some dreams don't come true and not everything comes as fast or as easy as we would like. Business is expanding, not exploding. Crime is down, but it is not gone. Unemployment is down. Employment is up, but it is not full. Our work is very much cut out for us. But if we open up, open new connections and new paths, continue to reopen old places with new futures, then we open opportunities for this community that can propel us, not just beyond where we are today, but far beyond even the best moments of our storied past. Our city was created as a byproduct of the opening of the West. Once upon a time, this was the West. And as the West opened and unfolded, this city opened shops and hotels, opened roads and railways, and opened great factories that built the vehicles destined for the open road, inventions that themselves helped open America for millions. And by being open to immigration, innovation, imagination, we have opened doors to new futures for the people who lived here. The legacy of one closure, one that happened 50 years ago this October, will not define us other than to remind us why we must be ever more open to the possibilities from which we will fashion our better future. We have given ourselves permission to believe in our city again. No city made up of the kind of people we are, that's been through what we've been through, and built what we've built, and lost what we've lost, and seen what we've seen, and made what we've made, and recovered from what we've recovered from. No such city can fail unless we let it. The state of our city rests on historic strengths and new hopes, and we already have everything it takes to open the next chapter in South Bend's story. Thank you.